Folks, how are we doing today? So it has come to my attention that there are people out there that are looking to buy either the Roland SPD SX or the Yamaha DTX multi-12 pads. So as I mentioned in an earlier video, I do own both. So this video is going to be doing pretty defined comparison of both of them. We're going to talk about both of them a little bit. I have some playing examples, not a whole lot, just a little bit. I used two different, very similar sounding kits for the playing examples, and I'll explain that a little bit later. Both pads cost roughly around the same. I think the Roland might cost a little bit more. Being that it's holiday time, you could get deals on either one. With anything, there's going to be pros and cons. So we're going to dive into the pros and cons. They feel pretty much the same. The pads are a little bit softer, I'd say, on the Yamaha. So if you prefer that, that's a good thing. But that being said, it's going to affect the triggering a little bit. So just remember that, because we're going to go into that. So again, I'll give you some playing examples. Okay, you can hear both units. Okay, and then you can kind of decide how you think they sound. So let's talk about the pros and the cons of each, okay? We'll begin actually with the Yamaha, okay? So the pros, the internal sounds are actually pretty good overall, and there's a lot of them. There's like 1,200, so if you, around 1,200, it might be even a little bit more than that. So if you like a lot of different world sounds, a ton of world percussion on this, you're going to like this pad. You're able to tune sounds, the pitch of the wave files. So it means if you want a deeper snare drum or a tighter snare drum or higher snare drum, you can easily do that with this machine. It has a hi-hat control, which is big for a lot of people. They want to have control of their hi-hat. They want to be able to play open-closed hi-hat, okay? There absolutely is a hi-hat control for this. The upper rims of the pad, we're going to talk about that a little bit more details as well, are actually pretty good in terms of sensitivity. They're actually really good, okay? I like the way the upper rims feel a lot, and they generate sound and trigger pretty well. It also has a 3 trigger option for pads that have 3 triggers. Most notably, the Yamaha snare drums that have 3 triggers. So they have the cross stick sound, the rim shot sound, and the head sound. The cons, really, really weird about the Yamaha. Horrible crosstalk with their own pads. So in other words, when I hit this pad and it was plugged in, I was triggering other pads on the unit, which is really, really strange. When I did play this pad, when I did play the Yamaha a little bit more frequently with a PDX 100, a Roland PDX 100, the triggering was really good, mainly because the pad, I think, was better, and there was no crosstalk whatsoever. Some pads are going to be better than others. The best pad I found so far is the PDX 100 to trigger with it. The pads on the unit don't trigger perfectly unless hit directly in the center. So if you're talking about the actual pads themselves, it has 12 pads at Yamaha. It's nice to put a lot of different things on the unit, but the main pads, the main 6 pads, the larger ones, there's faulty triggering sometimes. So I've noticed that when I hit the corner of it, it doesn't trigger, or it won't produce a sound, okay? And if you've played electronic drums before, you know that there's almost nothing worse than that. And there's a huge learning curve, probably the biggest con, with how to assign a hi-hat pedal, layering more than one sound. With some of the more intuitive things, there's a really, really big learning curve with the Yamaha Multi-12. Once you get it, it's not so bad. You have to kind of refer back to certain documents that show you how to do certain things. The manuals are overall pretty confusing. I found a lot of my stuff online looking at articles. Okay, how I learned how to assign an open-closed hi-hat with the pedal is how I got that from online. Moving on to the Roland. Okay, so the pros and cons for the Roland. Pros: the triggering on the unit and the pads and triggers is very good. If you want to play this thing without a trigger pad, you can. The snare feels really good. The pads feel really good. You can play buzz rolls on them, okay? You can't really play buzz rolls very easily on the Yamaha. It's very easy to assign sounds throughout the unit. It's very, very simple process. And you can even assign 2 sounds per pad easily, okay? It's called a wave and a subwave, I think they call it, okay? So you can have 2 sounding at the same time. You can change the volume of each sound, okay? So you can have them both coming at the same volume. You can have one lower than the other. Whatever you want to do with it, they make it very easy to do that. Very easy to navigate overall. If you want to create a kit and then copy it and put it someplace else, naming the kits, just intuitively, the Roland is very, very, very easy to use, okay? Additionally, it also has line in on it, which is huge, meaning that you can take samples from just your computer and record from the outside. You don't even have to use a USB drive, plug in the back, and import samples. You could just do it live sampling as it's happening. So those are that's a big advantage. Those are my pros. The cons. I bought the unit used, so I haven't found a flash drive that will allow me to reset the module completely, like a factory reset. With the Yamaha, you can easily press a button that says factory reset, and the unit will take, 5 minutes, but the whole thing will reset to its original factory stage. To do this on the Roland, you actually have to download the factory reset file, put it on a USB drive, and then you can load it into the Roland, apparently. I have yet to been able to figure out how to do that. So, although it's not the biggest deal in the world, and there's still plenty of room left on the machine, I sort of like to do that when I buy units used to factory reset them, so it's kind of like I'm getting it new again. The sounds are just okay. They're not that great. They're definitely better on the Yamaha, and there's only about 210 of them. Now, some people will say the sounds don't matter because you're either going to upload your own or you're going to connect it USB to, Easy Drummer or whatever, or TuneTrack. Only has 2 dual trigger out inputs. So if you really absolutely want to have a hi-hat control pedal, you can't do it on this. You can get a pedal and have it play a click, like a hi-hat click, like it's like the 2 and 4, and you can mimic a hi-hat that way. But if you want to play open-closed with a hi-hat, you can't do it with this machine. Although there is a way to tune the wave files, it's not nearly as easy as it is with the Yamaha. I've seen some videos of people doing it. I was able to get to the tuning menu or tuning the waves or changing the pitch of the waves, and it allows you to change, it says you can lower it however cents or this many cents. I didn't get too deeply into it, but there was no way for me to actually hit the pad and listen to how it sounds. Additionally, it also will save that wave and it'll store itself in one of the user kits, one of the user sounds. There's not really an easy way to do it as far as I can tell, but I'm going to do a little bit more research and find out. But it's definitely something I have to kind of dive deeper into. I'm going to talk about which one I would prefer. It really does depend on what you want. If you want to play a drum set with a hi-hat pedal, and you absolutely need that, buy the Yamaha. If you don't necessarily need that, and you don't really want, have the time, or you have the patience to deep dive and really have, learn about the pad itself and how it works, okay? Because it takes time, the Yamaha. Get the Roland because it's much more easier to use. Although the sounds are not exactly the same, they're not on the same tier at all. Actually, the Roland sounds aren't as good. For me, they're good enough to do what I want to do. If I want to just sit down and play some grooving stuff, I could do that on the Roland. For me personally, I'm going to put the Roland over it a little bit more just because the pads are a little bit more sensitive. I don't like sometimes that the main pads on the Yamaha, you can't always get a sound. It's, if I played it maybe a little bit more, but I've played it for, I'd say, a good 6 months now, the Yamaha, and I still kind of had issues with it. So I'm going to put the Advantage a little bit over the Roland. I'm not at the point where I want to sell the Yamaha. I don't want to get rid of it because it still does some things pretty well. It's definitely one of those things where they do some things differently. So it's probably worth to get both of them if you're like me and you're curious about this stuff. But if you're going to get one of them and you want to just be able to get a good sounding kit, it's not going to be a dual zone snare drum. You have to sacrifice that. You're going to want to go with the Roland. If you want to get a dual zone snare drum, you want to have a hi-hat, you want to have a little bit more things that are natural for a drum set, but just have to learn it a little bit longer and just take your time, buy the Yamaha. Hope this video has been helpful for you guys. Thanks so much for checking it out. Have a great day.